FDA is doubling down on its investigation into California-based Taylor Farms as it tracks down the source of a Cyclospora outbreak.
Yesterday, we reported a positive test result from samples of the company's lettuce was a false positive. It's now clarifying that the result, quote, does not change the basis for FDA's ongoing outbreak investigation or the overwhelming data supporting the current voluntary recall. More than 1,600 people in dozens of states have been sickened by the parasite, which causes gastrointestinal illness. The outbreak was intentionally linked to lettuce served at Taco Bell restaurants in 5 states.
And it is impacting the company's bottom line. According to Placer AI, an analytics firm that uses mobile data to track visits, foot traffic at Taco Bell did drop nearly 20% from average daily levels. It's not the only restaurant chain that's been taking a hit, though. Panera Bread, Chipotle, Subway, Cava, and Chopped have all seen significant drops in visits as well. Taco Bell CEO shared a statement on social media promising to put safety first.
It is interesting, people changing their habits over this.
Right.
So what does this all mean for consumers? We're joined live now by Marcia Brown, Politico's food and agricultural reporter. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
I can't hear you.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
All right.
We're going to have to check back in with
It's going to be an interesting conversation, though, because a lot of people now online are having discussions, too, about money that's potentially been given to the government through this company. This company also, I don't think a lot of people know, has several different brands under the name Taylor Farms. So I think, and consumer habits changing.
It's confusing to hear, oh, it's linked to this farm, and now the test results are inconclusive. Right. So what exactly does that mean? So do we have Marcia now?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks so much.
Oh, great. You can hear us. Wonderful. Okay, thank you for joining us this morning. And yeah, talk more about this false positive from this test.
So I think the thing to understand about the FDA investigation, which is ongoing, is that the FDA, when they're looking to find out a source for an illness like this, they're looking at a few different things. They're interviewing people who have been sick. That's called epidemiology. Then they're doing traceback. So once they find out through those interviews, okay, there's like a common item that people are eating, in this case, Taco Bell, they were able to trace that back to a single farm in central Mexico. And so they notified the company. It's owned by Taylor Farms. And the company issued a recall. And so then once the FDA does those two things, they then try to get another piece of evidence. And this is the most difficult thing, right? Which is testing. The problem with fresh produce is it has a short shelf life, and people, especially this particular illness, the incubation period is a week. So you're asking people to remember a week ago, 2 weeks ago, what they're eating, and then finding that lettuce. So this false positive was not the same lettuce as part of the recall. As part of the investigation, FDA has been doing additional surveillance at the southern border to just make sure in case there's any other lettuce that might also be implicated in this outbreak. So that's where we got this positive test, which then the FDA ran additional testing on, and they were able to say, actually, this was not a positive test.
How unusual is it to go back and forth like this, though, when you're trying to find, some conclusive evidence? You finally think you've got this now potentially under control, to then have to go back to the beginning.
So I think the thing to emphasize is that this doesn't change the FDA's ongoing recall and the evidence that is still pointing to Taylor Farms lettuce. This test created a lot of confusion, exactly like you're talking about. Over the weekend, a lot of people were really confused. Does this mean Taylor Farms isn't actually the source anymore? And that's not really what the FDA is saying here. They're just trying to make sure that there are not additional sources, because they're still looking for, this is an ongoing investigation, they're looking for more sources, but they still have evidence that points to Taylor Farms lettuce that was supplied to Taco Bell's and to some Walmart locations.
Yeah, and as we mentioned when we were coming to you, people changing their eating habits based on this news that's coming out. So should people genuinely be concerned about eating lettuce from anywhere? How cautious should they be?
So I think a lot of the experts that I talked about, have talked about this. I've heard from, the Western Growers Association that, grocery stores are cutting back on their purchases because they're anticipating people buying less fresh produce. But the thing to remember is that you can cook your produce and that kills the parasite. And you can also seek out, different types of produce that might be less vulnerable to having this parasite, less likely. We often see this parasite. It's now seasonal. Unfortunately, we often see this parasite on lettuce, berries, and herbs.
Okay, before we go, there's speculation online after reports Taylor Farms has donated heavily to pro-Trump political groups in the past. Are there any transparency or conflict of interest questions that deserve a closer look? You're starting to see this really heat up out there.
I think this is a real problem that came out of the weekend communication from the FDA, where there was, as you described, this back and forth, and a lot of people confused if that, exonerated the company and made it so that actually the FDA was looking at, different issues here. And I think that creates space for people to really be concerned about how much they can trust food safety authorities. And so we'll certainly be looking for this, and we'll be continuing to report on this outbreak.
All right, Marcia Brown, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.